right. Fantastic. Starting off the week on our Tuesday with the Prospect Podcast. I'm Coach Human. I have Coach D to my left, I guess, depending on the way you look at it. And I have our guest today, tight ends coach of Colgate and recruiting coordinator of Colgate, Dalton McCrann. We're excited to talk to him. A little bit of background on coaching, and we'll let him dive into a little bit further. He played and coached at I hope I say it right, Misercordia University, and so that's really where he got his start, playing I think the offensive line. But he's since as a coach, coached everything from running backs, fullbacks, tight ends, and as a recruiting coordinator. And he really kind of quickly moved up the ranks as tight ends coach and O-line coach at Misercordia, and then moved up and went up to Colgate in 2023 after being with Misercordia for, I guess, 4 years, and as offensive quality control and assistant line coach, and now as a tight ends coach and recruiting coordinator since 2023. We're glad to have him. He's another one of the fast rising young coaches that we Coach D is really plucked out and met along the way, and having him on to talk more about his journey and what he's doing now. So, Coach, is welcome. It's great to have you on the podcast. We're excited to talk to you.
I appreciate you guys having me on. Thank you,
Coach. Dive in a little bit. Your playing background and coaching, and what brought you into coaching and all that kind of good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up in a football family. My grandfather was a high school football coach in New Jersey for 50-something years. Was at Passaic in the mid-'80s. Craig, Ironhead, Hayward. He had him in high school. Was at Summit in the mid-'90s. And then, kind of did his head coaching thing, and then was a, special assistant to the head coach, right, where a bunch of young head coaches would hire him, and he would help out. And then he retired, right, when I got into high school. And by him retiring, that means he just joined the staff at Bernard's High School where I played. Started at just sitting in the bleachers and watching, and then I feel like a week later he was down in the field running drills once my high school header figured out he had a Hall of Fame New Jersey high school football coach just sitting there watching practice. So grew up around the game of football. I mean, I was a water boy, ball boy for all of Grandpa's teams as a young buck. And then, played high school football at Bernard's High School. So I'm a Jersey guy, like I said. And then, Coach, you said it, played 4 years at Misercordia, was an offensive lineman there. And then once I finished up, really kind of didn't know what I was going to do, but knew I wanted to stay around the game of football. So that spring semester, my senior year, asked if I could come on as a volunteer student assistant and work for free and just, hey, what do you need me to do around the office? Ended up having a conversation with my head coach at the time, Mark Ross, asked him if there's any way for me to stick around any further. Had a intern spot for me, did a year as an intern there. That's when I was coaching the tight ends, running backs, fullbacks, helping out with the offensive line. And then was elevated to a grad assistant there. So did a year and a half there as a year there as a 2 years. I think it was really 2 years as a grad assistant there. One of those years sticking with the tight ends, fullbacks, running backs, and then spent about a full season as the offensive line coach, strength and conditioning coordinator, and academic coordinator. So you got to wear a bunch of different hats at the small school level, and I wouldn't have traded it for the world. Had a connection up here at Colgate. My offensive line coach, my freshman, sophomore year at college, Brendan Walsh, was the offensive line coach here at the time, back in 2023. He's now with the Hamilton Tiger Cats. But he reached out and he was like, hey, we're going to have a assistant O-line job opening up. Thought of you. Would this be something that you're interested in? And absolutely. Hopped on an interview and, I guess I did a good enough job where they said I could come hang out as the assistant O-line guy. It was a pretty wild time here. We had some movement on staff very late in camp. One of the coaches on staff had an opportunity to go coach in the NFL. So he can't say no to that. even if it's the week before we open the season. Had to move some things around on staff, and between our offensive coordinator and our head coach, they decided that I'd be a fit to coach our tight ends here, and so I got a chance to do that fall 2023. Spent about a year and a half doing that. Under the previous staff. We had a transition here, a change in leadership, a bunch of different staff movement. Was lucky enough, our new head coach, Coach Fitzpatrick, wanted to keep me. Cortland. Wanted to keep me around, and I'm forever grateful for that opportunity. Shortly thereafter, got the bump to recruiting coordinator, and that kind of brings us to present day. So it's been a crazy ride. I mean, this will be my 6th season coaching college football. If you talked to me 6 years ago, in my mid-20s, I'd be sitting in this chair. I would have told you I was crazy. It's been awesome, and there's just been so many people along the way, that have helped me get to this point. Coaches, family, and just forever indebted to them. And it's been a really, really fun journey so far, and I'm excited to start year 6 here today.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah, Fitzpatrick had a heck of a run at Cortland. I think he was like 40-5 or something like that. Right?
Yeah,
unbelievable.
40-5.
Yeah, and this is a new challenge for him, right? Building the program up, and really trying to grow the program. But he was successful. I think where was he at before? Morrisville?
Yeah, SUNY Morrisville.
Yeah, he was successful there. So
Black turf.
Oh, is it really? There?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
come on, Dave. I got all the fun facts.
Yeah. You got. I don't know how I'm still trying to figure it out. Like I'm like, does he have like a feed? I try to figure out. Coach D.
It's my algorithm. My algorithm is
to have your algorithm. We have some overlapping algorithms, but you seem to have an algorithm that feeds you exact updated information and things.
I'm TMZ, buddy. I'm TMZ.
Dude, you're like football TMZ. That's it's amazing how you know. Actually, other stuff as well. Like I'll say something. I'm like, did you see this happen like an hour ago? He's like, yeah, I already know. I saw it. I'm like, what? How already? How did you? How? I mean, I could have sworn it just came in my feed. But anyway, but yeah, no, it's amazing. So I think you're on a good train, and one of the things is having interviewed a lot of really good assistant coaches and head coaches. One of the things that they've all found to be successful is if you get with a guy that has a track record of being successful and it works out well, you yourself become on that same kind of track for your own career, which is pretty cool. So getting with coach and getting retained there, I think is pretty awesome. And he's definitely a guy that's one of the fast rising head coaches. And albeit obviously this is a rebuild, right? And you guys are rebuilding the program, and you're a huge part of that with being the recruiting coordinator. So pretty cool stuff. Talk about what I don't know much about. I want to kind of backtrack a little bit. Where you played, Misercordia. Talk about that experience, because it's not a place that a lot of it's been around. A football program has been around for a long time, but not a lot of people know about that program.
Yep.
And so talk a little bit about that and your experience there.
Absolutely. So football program's been around probably just under 15 years. So a newer-ish program, all right? It was, I think, year 5, year 6. So I graduated high school in 2016. So that was, I think, the 4th or 5th season in program history. It was not even a rebuild. It was just a build. It
was foundation up. Like these are new bricks.
My first 2 seasons there. Didn't have a ton of success. Went 1-9 my freshman and sophomore year. My junior year, the staff there at the time, Mark Ross was the head coach. And it makes sense too, right? Like Mark Ross, he was the head coach. He's now at Cornell as the DFO. Mike Hatcher was the offensive coordinator. He's now the co-OC at Cornell. Brendan Walsh was the offensive line coach. He's now the offensive line coach for the Hamilton Tiger Cats, right? So like the staff there was super, super talented. Did a great job in recruiting. And some of those guys that once they got a foundation laid there, they were able to take some high level football players. I don't know if I'd include myself in that list, but I was surrounded by a bunch of great football players.
Always makes you look a lot better.
Yeah, right. Ended up going 8-3 my junior year. Played in a postseason football game for the first time. Had an opportunity to play for a conference title as a 6th, 7th year program.
Wow.
And then was able to follow that up. We didn't take care of business, but being that young of a program and just being able to be in the conversation for that is pretty cool. And then my senior year was able to follow it up with another winning season and another postseason berth. So it was really, really cool to be. And I talked about this in part of my the process of being retained here with Coach Fitz. I kind of joke that even as like a high schooler, I was a bit of a glutton for punishment, right? Where the idea of coming in on the ground floor of something, being able to build something and leave a legacy and really build the foundation for an entire program and to come in on the ground floor. That was a really, really attractive opportunity to me, just to be a part of something bigger than yourself. And then to see kind of the fruits of your labor come to fruition, right? And, I committed, and as a young buck, we won 2 games in 2 years. And then to finish it off with winning 14 games in 2 years with 2 postseason appearances, it sounds like something out of like a Disney movie, right? Like, I don't know if you could write the script any better. So that was a really, really cool opportunity. And then 2, on the academic side of things, I felt the relationship I had with those coaches was stronger than anybody else. And I knew that there was a vested interest in me, and they were going to make sure I got across the stage with a degree and was able to graduate. So, it was the best fit. I knew I was going to get a great education, people, and, get an opportunity to do something that hasn't been done before at that place and lay the foundation. And, that was a really, really cool experience. And wouldn't have traded it for the world. And, the people that you meet, the friends that I made in my time there, they're friends for life.
Building up a program, I think also gives you a good pedigree in college football, and being a part of something like that gives you an idea of what it's like in the beginning or near the bottom, and what it takes to kind of grow the program. So talk about kind of that experience, and do you share some of that with your players now at Colgate, right? Is that something that you try to help them understand? Because no matter what level the player is at, that's probably the hardest jump for them to see, okay, it's here right now and we're going in this direction, and to stay steady on the path to be able to get there. Talk about how you help share that with your players now.
Yeah, absolutely. It's something that, I'll talk about a lot with my current position group. Obviously that's the crew that I interact with the most. And really just talking about what that process looked like. And I think overall just being very process driven in your approach, where, Rome wasn't built in a day. Right. And it's just those small little incremental gains. And I know it's a little cliche and it's kind of, coaching talk, right. But it's the truth. Just trying to be a little bit better each day. And that consistent upward trend, and then making sure that the way, because there was also some learning experiences in there too, right, where the way it becomes sustainable and something that you can lean on constantly is knowing that the result wasn't a fluke, but because of our process is from this to this to this to this, and like I said, those small incremental gains, it lays a strong foundation, and it allows you to kind of, like I said, see the fruits of your labor and, get the result that you're looking for without being a very results focused individual.
No doubt about it. I think that it's a challenge taking the team from one spot to the other, and there's plenty of steps along the. Obviously, it can be tremendously accelerated in college with recruiting. So that's one of the beauties of that. Which brings me to recruiting, which is your kind of area of expertise. What are some of the things that you were able to kind of get done for leading up to this season, and kind of what's the philosophy there?
Yeah, absolutely. So from a recruiting coordinator standpoint, this will be my first cycle doing it. I was elevated to a recruiting coordinator spot February of this year. So before that was just a assistant, right? I was coaching the tight ends, had my area. I think the biggest thing in recruiting, and especially with how at times this profession can feel very transactional, right? Where it's just all about getting things done, putting pen to paper, and just on to the next. Being very people focused, people centric, relationship driven. I think as an assistant and having to recruit an area, always just trying to find the best talent in your area and bring it to the table and making sure that you've done your homework on everybody. You've built that relationship. You're constantly speaking with them, talking with them, talking with others too around them, not just, the prospect themselves, but, talking to guidance counselors, teachers, the high school head coach, high school assistants, if there's any sort of, recruiting service that they use, talking with the individual that runs that, just trying to get as much information on the individual as you can. And I think that allows you to paint a full picture for yourself as the area coach. You have a true understanding of what the prospect's all about. And then once you've kind of dug and you've gotten all that information, you then feel confident, right? Hey, I could bring this guy to the position coach for an eval, and let's work him through the pipeline. And I know, character wise and all that, we're bringing a good person into our program. Obviously, a good football player too. And let's get the ball rolling. But I think the recruiting piece, it's got to be relationship driven. And another thing that I truly believe in, and we believe in as a staff, and is transparency in the recruiting process, where you're constantly just whatever feedback you can give, sometimes better, sometimes for worse. Sometimes you have to have those tough conversations in recruiting, making sure you have those conversations and not just kind of stringing guys along. I think that over time, and if you do that consistently in an area, because you kind of want to immerse yourself in an area as an area coach, right? It can leave a bad taste in people's mouths. And at the end of the day, people would rather hear the truth than kind of just get strung along. Right. So making sure that you're transparent with everyone involved in the prospect's recruiting process, obviously the prospect itself and himself and going from there. But I think there's a bunch of good, talented football players all across the country. So if you can be relationship driven in your recruiting process and transparent, you're going to have success. And then I think as a positional recruiter, right, when I'm, going after the tight ends that, I'd like to be a part of the football family here. Really going back to that relationship driven piece. And it's from a point of there needs to be a strong foundation when they get to campus on multiple different fronts, right? I think just from a personal side of things, person to person, I like coaching football, the X's and O's. That's probably only about 20% of what we do as football coaches. I always joke. You want to make sure that individual feels like they have somebody on staff that they can come to, like, and in a time of need, and what they might view as a crisis. And it might be one of those, hey, been there, done that. I've been in this exact same situation. Talk with me. We can work through this together. So they feel like they have their person. And I think to be able to coach guys hard and maximize talent, right? There has to be a prior relationship there. If it's transactional, it's not sustainable over a long period of time. I've always kind of viewed leadership and just overall coaching as a whole, right? Because, naturally, when you add coach in front of your name, you're going to be in some sort of leadership position, whether it's a whole program, a side of ball, a position group. I view leadership as it's like a bank account, right? Where anytime you have a positive interaction, whether it's a great play, high five, hey, how you doing? That's a small deposit into the bank account, right? And then anytime you have to go and get after one of your guys a little bit and coach them hard, that's a little bit of a withdrawal from the bank account, right? And you can never go negative as a coach. You can never go negative as a leader. So as long as you're constantly pouring into those guys, showing that you love them, care for them, I think it allows you to coach them even harder and, really get the best out of your room. And I think that relationship piece starts in the recruiting process. It doesn't start when they get to campus. It starts, in the recruiting process and making sure that your foundation is strong.
I think,
Coach, I think that's go ahead, Dave. Go ahead.
No, you go.
No, I was gonna say, I think that, you hit on the one thing that I think is absolutely pivotal within the recruiting process, and that's like the transparency aspect of it, right? Especially now when it really comes down to you're basically you're splitting hairs when it comes to it, especially at your level, coach, where, with the transfer portal the way it is, are taking portal guys, are we recruiting high school guys? The transparency basically, it's we both need to be honest throughout this whole thing, because we don't want to sit here wasting both of our time, right? When it comes down to it, stringing guys along or doing this or do it, you know what I mean? And that's one of the things, like, that jumped out to me when I first met you was, the transparency aspect of it, where you're open, you're honest. Look, like, I think this guy is a player that could play at our level, but for where I am, right, like, that's not going to get it done. Because Colgate's a little bit of a different beast when you're talking academics and, GPAs and numbers and those types of things that can get in. And for that, just be straight up, hey, like, this is what it is. Yeah, he could get this level, but not for us, right? Because of this. That, I think, at a level within the recruiting process, that's just so phenomenal when it comes to, and is that going to maybe leave a bad taste in the mouth of the player or the parent or what? Absolutely. But it's rock hard evidence of, like, this is a number and we can't get that done. So, hey, go talk to this guy or this, right? You keep those relationships. You don't burn those bridges, but you're open and honest. And at the time, they might not like it, but down they're going to respect it and be like, that guy really just told me what it was, and I respect that. The other thing, Coach, that I think, like, when it comes to camps and hitting those and going back and forth, touch on that piece of the reading aspect of it, of literally actually getting out there on the road. And have you seen it change in your time in terms of, it used to be more, hey, we're in the schools, or now we're going to more mega camps or camps? Talk about that a little bit, because I think that's a piece of the puzzle that, yes, it's program driven on how it works within your school and where you're at, but just touch on that a little bit when it comes to the road, kind of how you break that stuff down.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think getting into schools, spending face time with the prospects, the head coaches, being able to kind of do that, like I talked about, that homework on guys, right? Talking with other people besides, the prospect. I think that's a very, very important piece of the recruiting process too. And it's something that isn't going to, I don't see that changing for us. It's a big part of our evaluation, and it allows you to really dive deep into what's going to be important to the prospect. I joke, when I go into schools and I'm talking with prospects, I don't have a elevator pitch. I don't, talk about, right. Like I don't have, hey, this is what we're all about. Obviously, right. I'll provide a little bit of background, especially with us recruiting a national footprint. Like, I'll go to some states, some areas, and
right,
which
is different for you guys, right? And
yeah,
that's something that's relatively, like, yes, you're located here geographically, but you're a national program. You guys recruit national. I mean, there are kids from all over the place that want to go to Colgate, right? Like, it's sought out. So absolutely, that's a little bit of a different piece of the puzzle as well that adds to it. But yeah, continue to talk about a little bit of that phase.
But during the in school, I being a younger coach, I pride myself in being a higher energy guy, and So when I'm doing these in-school visits, talking with prospects, I don't do the whole elevator pitch thing. I give a background on Colgate if they need it. Some people are very familiar. Some people think I got no clue, right? And then
where is it?
Yeah, which is all good. I've gotten everything from, I know exactly who you are, to toothpaste company and everything in between, right?
Right.
I thought it was a toothpaste company when they recruited me out of high school. So, I didn't.
There you go, Dave. There you go. You're like, do I get? This is great,
I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what it was. And my father's like, "What are you talking about? It's a great school. It's a fantastic academic school."
Right. So I think it's in schools. I let the prospects kind of lead the conversation. I sit down. I'm like, what do you want to know? What's going to be important to you in the college search process? And then the great part is we have such a great product.
What are some of those questions, Coach? Like, give me a quick example. Just like, what did you hear the most of?
I think
how much money am I going to get?
Well, no, I think when the high academic schools walk in, that's just not something we don't deal with it. But a lot of them are, just based off the academic profile that we can recruit, right? They're very high achieving individuals in the classroom. Yeah. So what's going to be important to guys that are in the conversation with us? It's going to be, graduation rates, retention rates, postgraduate opportunities, what success looks like after graduation, majors, so I get a lot of those, just overall, academic prestige, right? So that's those are pretty common ones, and I'm able to, just with being here for so long now, this being my going into my third season, my third recruiting cycle here, I'm pretty well versed on the fun facts, right, if you will. So I can talk about all the different majors and what our career services look like, and we graduate our student athletes at a 98% rate. We place our student athletes in jobs at a 99% and postgraduate opportunities at a 99% rate. 98% student athlete graduation rate, and in the class of 2023, we placed 116 of 117 student athletes in a postgraduate opportunity within a year of graduation.
That's amazing.
So just being able to go in there and hey, this is what we can do for you off the field, in the classroom after graduation. And then from a football piece, the tradition here, the history of success, 10 Patriot League titles, like the football takes care of itself. There's not, I always joke with prospects, there's not too many places in the country you can go get look at Forbes, Wall Street Journal, whatever. We're going to be top 25, top 50 in the country. There's not too many places you can get a degree that's of that caliber, and then also go play, high level Division I football with obviously the Patriot League moving around, and that's become a powerhouse conference on the East Coast here. And
absolutely,
we're gonna play a tough competitive schedule. We're gonna play a money game every year. Like we're gonna go up to Syracuse week 3 and play in the Dome.
That's awesome.
In the ACC on the ACC network. So there's not.
And kids want to hear that, buddy. You know what I mean? Like, you've seen it long enough. Like that's what they want, man. Shit, I would have wanted it. You know what I mean? Like the opportunity to go and you know what I mean? Like, hey, we're going to play those guys that, here's what it is, dude. Like, we're going to roll it. Like every year you're going to have that opportunity to go do that. Right. And then, obviously the academic piece takes care of itself. They know they're going to be set basically for life with this piece of paper from this institution. So to be able to, kind of kill two birds with one stone, to me, it's just really hard. It would be hard to say no to it, right? If I ever had that opportunity, I'm also talking about a guy that like was looking for anything on that level, like any bit of sniffing, like, oh yeah, sure. Like, I was that little puppy dog that was like, wait, who's in the building? Who wants to talk to me? Absolutely. You know what I mean? Like, but in the era that we're living in now, right, where it's, what can this place do for me now? Colgate is setting you up for a future down the road, right? And I'm sure that's a hard sell to the athlete, right? But ultimately, mom, dad, whoever is involved in that can pitch that more so. Like, hey, this might not be your FBS playing on Channel 2 in a national championship game, but this is going to set you up where you're never going to have to worry about any of that other type of stuff, right? Because you're going to have this piece of paper from this institution that's bar none, you know? And I just, that in itself has to only aid in your recruiting process. And when, you know, what, because being a good salesman, like ultimately you have to have a good product, right? Like we could sell the shit out of whatever, but you have to ultimately fall back on something rock solid and proven. And I think Colgate does that. It checks every one of those boxes.
Oh, absolutely. That's the nice part is like, you know, you don't have to be, you know, frame the conversation or steer the conversation in a certain direction to only focus on the positives of that institution. There's no negatives. Like that's why I think allows me to go into schools and be like, hey, what do you want to know? Because there's nothing we have to hide here. Everything from, you know, top to bottom, from academics to facilities to football to everything, right, is
transparency.
First class, some of the best in the country. And yes, it goes back to the transparency piece where you know, I can just be me and I can sell what this place is at face value, and you know, it takes care of itself.
And you also have that group that's like, look, like I want you, but you don't want this. Like there's another 50 guys waiting in line, dude, that like, you know what I'm saying? Like that can fill that void, you know, and I don't have like, you know, so it's a really nice position to be in, you know what I'm saying, Coach? Like,
Coach, how does
Dave, go.
How does the like I know Patriot League has scholarships. How do you guys do the financial aspect? Is it full rides? You break them up? How do you do it? You know, according to FAFSA or whatever. How do you guys do the money thing?
Yeah, absolutely. It you know, it's it can be a bit of a jigsaw puzzle at times, right? But I think the biggest thing is you're always going to have to get you know, the prospect to, you know, a number that the family's comfortable with. You know, we have a bunch of different ways here that we can go ahead and do that. But you know, it can be a little bit of a jigsaw puzzle, and that's another component to the recruiting piece, right? Is that because a guy can, you know, be you know, great in the classroom and can be a Division I caliber football player, and then there's another added layer to it. So we have a bunch of different ways that we can, you know, maneuver things, and it really is a case by case basis. And you know, at the end of the day, we got to do everything that we can inside the framework of our recruiting plan to attempt to get you know, families to a number that they're comfortable with, and you know, roll from there. But it's an interesting piece for sure. But we do a good job.
The ultimate jigsaw puzzle, right? The ultimate factoring of what it is. And, you know, obviously sticker price is one thing that, you know, parents get so nervous, or whoever's in the recruiting process now, because it's way over more than just parents now. You know, sometimes you're talking to, you know, whoever's handling their recruiting or whatever, but, you know, and we talked to a couple coaches, right? And I remember, you know, a coach we talked to from Susquehanna, right? Like that sticker price is one thing, but look, let's work through all of the other things. That's not going to be the end all be all of what is going to come out, right? So let's work through that. Is that something that is specific to Colgate itself, or is that Patriot League based? Is there anything that the conference itself kind of, you know, has in place that you have to kind of balance and make sure when it comes to, you know, getting guys in the building?
No, I think that's just it's not Colgate specific. It's not, you know, Patriot League specific, Division I specific. I think it's just overall college football. I know it was a factor in my recruiting process. At the end of the day, you know, you outline a recruiting plan that you're going to stick to. And, you know, you have to use all the different resources that you have as a university, whatever they may be, to work to get a family and a prospect to a number that they're comfortable with. You know, if a family can't afford the number, then it's not going to be a fit.
Right.
So
It'll be a struggle the whole time, right? Which ultimately
exactly. And at that point, I think you're doing the young man and his family a disservice, right? If you go ahead and continue to move along, I kind of view it as like dangling the carrot and then taking it away. That's bad for business. That's not being transparent, right? So, I think it's just overall college football as a whole. In order to,
it's crazy.
That's the last piece of the puzzle. But at the end of the day, to land a prospect and have their family become part of your family, there is a business side of it, and you do have to get them to a number that they're comfortable paying all 4 years, and kind of go from there.
It's are you guys at 105 also as the same as FBS, or is that
no? So we pretty much the entire Patriot League, Ivy League, when the house settlement stuff came out, we're not opted in currently. I don't know what the plan for that is in the future. I just,
what
day by day.
Tell me what I'm doing. Tell me where I'm at and how to do. Tell me what it is, and that's what I'm working with. And if it changes, update me. Let me know.
Absolutely.
Just let me know.
Day by day. So our roster number will with no more roster limit restrictions in the Patriot League, with that being lifted a few years ago. It was right before I got up here.
That's huge. That's a big move.
I think it's all from a roster standpoint with the majority of the league not being opted in, right? It's all just predicated based off of what each institution's comfortable with, and what they feel as a university they can properly support, in all facets.
How many lockers do you have? Right? How many lockers are there?
Yeah, that's all it is. Right. And does everyone have a locker? We're not sharing locker, like all that stuff, right? Can we get
some of the logistical stuff?
It's all case by case, with the league as a whole, is how I understand it.
Interesting. As far as transfers and how do you guys do that? Are you majority high school? Are you case by case basis? Are you trying to target?
Majority high school. I think that is my favorite part about being here at Colgate and in the Patriot. I think just high academic Division I football as a whole, it still feels like college football, where you're going to develop a relationship. You're going to recruit a guy out of high school, right? You're going to retain him, and you're going to develop him over a 4-year span. It still feels like traditional college football. Obviously the portal is part of Division I football, but it's not something that we have to make a living doing. So it's a little bit case by case. If there's a clear need on the roster where we need to go, get an individual out of the portal just based off of, a bunch of different factors, we'll go ahead and do it. But we're gonna, I think we have maybe 3, maybe 4 on the roster in total, that are transfers. So 97, 98, 99% of our roster is going to be guys that we recruited out of high school, retained for 4 years, and developed for 4 years, which is awesome. And like I said, it feels like traditional college football. And that's my favorite thing about being here. I think one thing that Coach said very early in his time here that I love, he wants to define, our players, our guys' experience here, not based off of playing time, but everything else attached to it, right? Do they feel, cared for? Do they have a true relationship with their position coach? Do they feel like their talent's being maximized? They're being coached hard. They're getting a great degree, like all those other things. Like that's how he wants them to define their time at Colgate, and not just strictly based off of playing time. And I think that goes back to that's leaning more towards the transactional nature of the profession in college football as a whole right now, versus kind of the meat and potatoes, right? And what not losing sight of what's really important and why
you're
here
you're going to college, right? Like the true college experience of, look, yes, we're asking you to put in a lot of time for the game, for the sport, for our team, but there's still a whole nother side to being here, experiencing college in a quote, it's really crazy to say it, but in a traditional sense of, what we're doing. Yes, you get the opportunity to play a game that you love, and you're a high level player that has the ability to now play at this next level, but it's still college, right? And I think sometimes guys lose sight of that, whether it's because that's the only world they know. And like, you're a younger guy too, that kind of came in right when all of this was in the mix from a playing standpoint. And now as a coach at this level, it's still that D3 feel, I guess you want to say, maybe in a way. Whereas you look at the bigger schools, the Power Fours and all that stuff, like you said, it's becoming more, that end of it is more NFL based, business based, with GMs and roster management and who's getting paid what. And now basically with, the revenue share, like it's a salary cap for it, right? You're still in that world of, hey, you're going to come here, you're going to have a college experience, I'm going to, develop you to become the best you can be. And that's where I think, the Patriot League and that level is separated from some of the others, right? Like, you see Delaware going to, Conference USA now, they become an FBS, but like that transition of more transactional aspect of college football, where you guys get that college feel to, hey man, like you're going to get to experience stuff here that some of these other guys might not, right? Now they're going to worry about wins and losses more, where we're going to worry about like, hey, how are you doing in your classes? Like, are you struggling? Can I help you? Which I'm sure not. The guys, they're there for a reason. And that reason is more off the field than on the field.
Absolutely.
It is what's camp like now? So talk about you go.
Yeah. So
I love camp. I love camp
now. It's a country club now. When I played, where there's 3-a-days, and
and yes, and conditioning tests and all that craziness.
And I marked the next until we got to the campus-wide picnic. Right? When we got the campus-wide picnic, students were back.
Yeah. Wait. When do students get on campus? Because right now it's us, the soccer team, the field hockey girls. Like, when is everybody getting on campus?
I liked when the soccer team and all them came, and I didn't.
Who did it?
Us. I didn't like it when it was just us.
Those first couple of days, man, when you're looking at those freshmen that are coming in, and you're like, buddy, I hope you're ready, because that little pillow is going to be your best bet. Like, here we go, man. And I love camp. Like, I don't know. I love camp.
It's exhilarating.
Nothing the outside world, right? Like, you have no idea what's going on. It is just it's like Groundhog's Day. You're just like, all right, meetings, practice, recovery, food, right? Like, you're worried about sneaking in a nap, right? You just go to your locker, you're sleeping in your locker. Guys are miserable, right? Nobody looks good. Everybody's hair and beards are like, well, it's just, you're in a different world. It's twilight.
No doubt.
So talk about camp, Coach. Talk about camp.
Camp for us, and this will be my first one with Coach Fitz. But we've Groundhog's Day, right? Now that's my favorite part of it. You get to do football all day. Just get to do football. It's part of why we do this, right? So our guys are they're going to report today, and they're getting moved into their dorms right now and all that stuff as we speak. And we'll do a couple days of the administrative stuff, the meetings, and it's all kind of building up, right, to this
compliance and do this and all this stuff, right? Like, hey, you guys can't be doing this, and oh god,
it's all it's a build up to the 31st will be our first practice, and so our schedule, what it'll look like for our guys, and it seems to be pretty cookie cutter, where we'll get up, they'll eat, we'll meet, they'll practice, and they'll either lift or do treatment or something like that, then get some lunch, and back into some meetings, installs, and just wash, rinse, repeat. And, we'll roll here for a couple weeks. I don't know. And then, it's nice to, once you get towards the end of camp, and all of a sudden you start to see some opponent preview stuff and some look period, and you're rocking and rolling. But it's exactly what camp is camp.
How many sessions do you guys go? So like actual practice, is it like
one? It's just one. Yep, one. Yep. So they got
usually
rid
one
of
meet and then like a walkthrough, right? Like
it's true walkthrough. It's teaching because you're you got to teach for the next day, right? And maybe make some corrections from practice that day if there was something that we really made a mess of. But it's just all about teaching there in that walkthrough. So the last year they allowed the 2 days. That was my freshman year of college. So it would have been fall 2017.
Long gone.
Right, fall 2017 would have been kind of what this current model is, and we're excited. And right now, I think it's just I want to have a good first practice on Thursday, and then good second practice, and just day by day build
right.
and getting these guys to just execute what we do and at a really, really high level, and going from there.
Do coaches feel like with the one practice they get a better performance in that one practice and camp out of them, or do they feel like it should be, we just kind of have to go that way because that's to keep them safer and all that kind of stuff? I'm always curious of the thoughts of like, do we wish we could have 2 in a day, or do we, or is it better?
I think overall it's tough. Like I never lived in the before time, right? I never had I did it as a freshman, but you're just trying to survive your freshman year. Right. So I don't really have anything to compare it off of. Yeah, I'm sure there's days that, I know there's days that I've had. I'm sure there's days we'll have maybe during this camp where you're like, man, I really would like to be able to get out in the afternoon with these guys and get some stuff fixed at full speed, right? So naturally you're always going to want more and more time as a coach. The current model I think is definitely a little more sustainable, and you're not losing hours in a day, so you just got to get creative and find other ways to teach. And
does it affect install at all? Does it no? Okay, yeah, I was just curious.
No, I mean, it's still going to be, an install a day for, however many weeks. And, you'll go from there. I think maybe it actually allows the guys to understand the information a little more, and they got some more time to process it. And, you're teaching the night before, walking through the night before, they have their cut ups to watch as they're lying in their bed, trying not to fall asleep on the phone. Right. They got their playbooks. I think
I think you're just nodding out all the time. I remember, you're so tired in those meetings. It doesn't matter. Like, you could be as conditioned as you want, and when that light goes down and you're watching that previous practice in the meeting, and you're fighting it. You're constantly fighting that battle. You know what I mean? If you're not like nodding or falling asleep, like, I feel like that was a gauge. It's almost like a test, right? Like, I don't want you to fall asleep. Be right on that verge of like, Coach, I'm so tired. It's a true mental mind, game through camp as well, right? And I think that's also part of like, dude, we're gonna prepare you to just get set here. You know what I mean? Like, this is what it is, and that I think is a huge transition, especially for the younger guys, in the amount of time and stuff spent off the field, like, because as a high school football player, it's football. Like, you go out there, you practice, you do that. That's what it is. It's the off the field transition to the meetings and the taking care of your body and the training room and the eating right and the staying and all of those things that now so much more of your time is spent on that aspect of the game. And that's before you get to the actual X's and O's and learning the playbook and learning all of those things, because that takes time regardless of how small football player you are. Just that, and then the physical adjustment of, holy shit, everybody's really good, everybody's big, everybody's fast. Like, this is a totally different, like, that adjustment is also something that to me is what separates some of the older guys on the roster, right? And then the younger guys on the roster, that I just think that's sort of getting to that level. What division it is, FCS, D3, like, that part changes your entire outlook on what it is, right? And then mom's wondering, well, why can't you call me? Mom, I'm so tired. I don't even know, like, I don't even move my toes. Like, this is what we're talking about. How do you see that, Coach, especially as a tight ends coach, where you probably have the smallest room in the building, right? Like, tight end room is always a different level of intimacy when it comes to player coach relationship, because there's usually not many, right? You don't have receivers. It's not offensive line. Like you have probably 4 to 5, 4 to 6, somewhere around that range, right? And that might be a lot, depending on your sets are and what you do and all that kind of stuff, and obviously how you recruit and what you bring in and whatnot. How do you kind of run your room, Coach? Do you guys go with the offensive line? Do you go with the receiver? Like, how do you run your room when it comes to the tight ends at Colgate? Because that's very different too. A lot of our viewers, they don't really know or understand, and I don't know. How do you run your room as a tight ends coach at Colgate?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it starts, there's got to be a strong foundation. So we'll kind of touch back on the relationship building piece right now that I'm in a spot where this will be my third season with these guys. Right. So a lot of these guys that, that were in the room, prior to me getting the job here, I've now spent, 2 to 3 years with them. Right. So we've built that relationship. And then I'm starting to hit the point now where guys that I've had a pretty large role in recruiting, right, they're starting to, populate in the room a little bit. So it's the relationship piece, right, making sure that you're in a good spot with all those guys so you can coach them hard. I think before you even start talking about the X's and O's and the install and all that stuff, there's a lot of different intangibles that go into being a position coach. First and foremost is executing, right, the vision of the head football coach, the offensive coordinator, making sure whatever they want the identity of the program to be, whatever they want done schematically, it's getting done at the highest level possible. And then obviously you gotta put your own little spin on it. You're not going rogue and pushing your own agenda, right? But it has to get guys to fully buy in. It has to feel genuine and what you're teaching and the values that you're pushing are things that you strongly believe in. So from my guys, I talk a lot about, just room in this first meeting. Like I was working on my PowerPoint here for our first meeting. We're going to talk about room expectation standpoint. First and foremost, is going to be, what intangible traits do I want us to have as a room, right? So, we're going to be tough. We're going to be disciplined. But I think something that we're maybe guilty of at times as football coaches is we use a lot of these like fancy buzzwords, right? But we never define it for our guys. And I think just the guys that we have here at Colgate, they're very, they're smart. They want a lot of information. They can retain information. So defining it for them, I think helps. Toughness, discipline, those are two things that are non-negotiable. So I define toughness as, and I got this from, a coach that I had and someone that's become a good mentor and friend, Aaron Mershman. He's the, he's the O-line coach at Central Connecticut State. It's funny, like you kind of, as you're growing in this profession, you take little things that you like from different coaches and you apply them and use them. Right. So I define toughness as the ability to perform no matter how you feel. Right. Both physical and, my leg could hurt, my hamstring could hurt. I could be tired, but I still have a job that needs to be get done. And then 2, from a mental side of things, right. I'm tired. Maybe my girlfriend just broke up with me or I just failed a test. You have to be able to compartmentalize that stuff and perform at a level because you have, 100 other guys on the roster, right, that are depending on me to do my job at a high level. And discipline, right. I view that as that's the ability to do what you need to do when you need to do it. And I really don't want to get up at 6 a.m. to go work out, but I have to because there's people that are depending on me, right? And all those different things. So outlining that, and taking a very, and I think it just naturally happens inside the tight end room, taking a very selfless approach, right? Putting the success of others around you before your own personal success. But I think what I've found, and now my 6 years doing this, if you can take that approach and you can put other success before you, it's just naturally going to result in, that individual success. You want to have it, right? And you want to be a key contributor, and then creating a process for the guys. And this is something that I strongly believe in, something that they could lean on, something that they can reference back to, especially when things get hard, right? So I talk about, proper alignment, having a knowing your assignment, right? Executing at a high level and do it with a ton of effort. So alignment, assignment, execution, effort. I talk about that constantly with the guys. So it's where do I need to be? What do I, right? Execute, assignment. What do I need to do? Execution. What tools, right, do I have in my tool belt to get the job done? And then effort, that's a choice you make in everything that you do, right? Where am I willing to give everything that I have in this moment to make sure this gets done? And then, to kind of piggyback off that, right, something that Coach Fitz talks a lot about is inputs versus outputs, right? Be more worried about what you can input into the program than what outputs are coming out of the program for you. So I think, his overall input versus output philosophy aligns very much with the alignment, assignment, execution, effort kind of philosophy and it's something he talks about too constantly. And I think the nice part is too, in creating that process that doesn't just necessarily apply to football all the time. At the end of the day, like we're teachers of young men, right? We're trying to give them the tools to be successful. We all had football coaches that instilled those values in us, and that's why we are where we are today. And that's kind of my roots with my grandfather being a longtime high school football coach. So, giving them something to lean on that they can use later on in life. To get them through a tough situation. So that's I think the intangible piece to start right away. And you have to set clear expectations very fast, right? And they understand the standard. And my challenge to you is to meet that every day. And if you don't meet that standard, let's have a conversation on why and help me help you get to a point of where we need to be. And then from a overall, coaching philosophy, right? Technique, X's and O's, all that stuff. I'm a very collaborative approach in the sense of I'm not it's my way or the highway. Obviously, something needs to be done inside the framework of our offense, and we're not going to deviate from that. But something I pride myself in is being able to give guys different tools in their tool belt to get themselves out of situations. And then, from a true learning progression standpoint, the way we kind of do things here, every now and then we'll get together as a full offensive unit and install and all that stuff. But, a large majority of the teaching, falls on the individual position coach here. And, my guys do have a lot of information they have to digest, right? They're a very, they're a big part of what we'll do in the run game, and they're a big part of what we'll do in the throw game. So I think maybe on the offensive side of the ball, aside from the quarterback position, my guys probably have the second most that, they need to know inside right. Inside the offense.
The full
right?
grasping of the offense, right? Yeah, absolutely. Because and a lot of people don't look at the tight end like that, right? And obviously, depending on what offense, he might be more involved. Like certain offenses where tight ends are more involved in the throw game, or run game, right? Ultimately, you got to know both, which is a different type of we've seen the tight end go from literally, look, you're an offensive tackle, right? Or, hey, you're more of a wide receiver, right? But when you come to certain offenses and say, you have to be a guy that you need to understand a little bit, because you might be more of a receiver on this, you might be more of a lineman on this play, right? You might be more of an H, or where now you're a running back. You're literally plugged into every other position group within the defense, which adds a totally different element to it. And depending on the program itself, tight ends are involved on teams all over the place, right? It's just a key component to it as well. So of those guys in the room, yes, one of your guys, more of your starter or whatever, but those two other guys that travel as well around on the bus, dude, you're playing every team. You're doing all these other things, right? So that's what makes a tight end room, to me, very different than any other position type of room. And it's just an appeal for me. I've always said if I could everything, I would be a tight end, because you get to knock the piss out of somebody on one play and touch down on another, right? And it's just, to me, it's always been such an intriguing position group that, it just kind of, I'll always sit in on a guy that does tight ends, right? Because the tight ends coach as well also usually wears another hat, because, hey, you don't have as many guys in the room, so you can do this, or you can do, right? The special teams coordinator, usually it's a tight ends guy, right? Or whatever it is. It's just such an intriguing different group. Also one of the why that's kind of another reason that I was like, hey, let's get Dalton on, because Coach McCrann does the tight ends, where that's a different group, especially for the conference you play in, right? Entails to what is to play at Colgate Patriot League in the Northeast, where weather is a factor. A tight end to me is still always going to be one of those tough guys on your team.
Yep. No, absolutely. And that's the nice part about, I think, coaching this position group. I'm an offensive lineman kind of by trade. I guess I'm an O-line guy, I don't know. But played it in college and coached it for a little bit. So that kind of tough guy mindset, that's something that resonates with me. So kind of getting the best of both worlds. But I think with all the information that the position has to digest, you have to be very squared away with your teaching progressions and making sure that the guys truly understand the information and what needs to get done. And then also making sure that you're able to articulate to them as the position coach, in depth and in detail, what they need to do. So I think
Absolutely.
From a teaching progression standpoint, right, like it all starts in the meeting. So that's your ability to kind of do the classroom learning, the whiteboard, the chalk talk, cut ups and diagrams and all that. And even going as in depth as like every day during training camp and throughout the season until, the guys kind of get a gist of, the drills and all that stuff. I'll pull up a diagram of each indie drill that we're going to do that day. The next day of practice, they have an understanding
Absolutely.
of like, hey, we got 20 minutes of indie tomorrow. This is how we're going to spend our 20 minutes doing these 3 different drills. Because, you're always chasing indie time, especially during camp. So if, we're doing 3 different drills and I got to spend 2 minutes explaining each drill, that's 6 minutes that I lost.
100%.
I lost almost a third of my indie, just in teaching and all that. So just trying to be efficient with my time. Right. And then, you move to your individual stuff, right? Like we talked about, that's your skill acquisition, right? Understanding the technique and what that needs to look like. And that'll be at different speeds. Or we slow down, or we teach tempo, or are we going to do this full speed where, I'm going to get after the guy for not giving, brother-in-law on it, right? Not rooting in there and holding the bag, or not getting in a 3-point stance and giving a look. So there's that piece. Then you move into your group periods where it's kind of a controlled setting, right? Whether it's, pod drills in the run game, or an inside run period, or like a 3-over-2 quick game perimeter drill, right? Where you can kind of control the pieces and, get them to react to different stimuli, and see a couple different pictures. And then you work in your full team, live reps, or as live as we can be based off the pads, and, being able to coach off that tape, make corrections, making sure guys are understanding it, and then rolling from there. So I think the biggest thing, especially with all the information that my guys have to digest, is making sure I'm squared away with my teaching progressions, making sure the guys have a full understanding of the concept, the schemes, the techniques, and then, being able to roll from there and just try to avoid chasing indie time as much as possible. It's inevitable, but it's going to happen. So just using our time together as a room as efficiently as possible. And then, you touched on the special teams component too. And it's something I'll talk to my guys about. And it's in my PowerPoint slide that I was making. Any, special teams, unit that we have, where the body types we have in the room fit the profile of what Coach Eisen, our special teams coordinator, is looking for. We should be on those units, and we should be excited to be on those units.
Hell yeah.
Something we need to take
the
pride in.
Thing.
The big thing is I love helping out Coach Eisen with our special team stuff. I think just from being a young coach, it's another way to develop. It's another thing that I've done. So
put on your resume, buddy. It's a great thing to have on that resume.
For units where my guys are involved, Coach trusts me to coach the back line on our kickoff return stuff, because those are going to be your tight end, fullback, big running back body types, right? The wings and ends on PAT field goal, all that stuff is crucial. And I think too, if the guys see that, their position coach isn't sitting over by the water cooler and, just chopping it up with people during special teams, and they see that I'm out there actively coaching drills and teaching, I think it allows them to see, and this is an approach that we take program wide too. It's not just, anyone that's got, their position group involved in a teams unit. that position coach is involved in coaching that unit, I think it shows the guys that special teams it's not just we're kicking or whatever. It's a very, very important part of the game. It's a third of the game, and we have to be able to execute at a high level. And it's not just a playoff, but it's actually a chance to impact the football game. And I think having us involved as position coaches and coaching our guys, it really expresses the importance of special teams and how it is a key factor in the flow of a game, right? And your success and winning and losing a football game. And it's not just a playoff, and you should pride yourself in being on as many teams units as possible.
Special teams have always been an important part of getting on the field, especially early on. So, that's the way to make your mark and make the difference, and get yourself on coach's radar, especially for those guys who are like linebackers, DBs, tight ends, those guys, even receivers, so there's a lot to it.
I need those guys, right?
Right.
I need them. As many as we can. It's a way to get on the bus. Look, it's how I got on the bus is my first, opportunity to travel. And, week one, it was coming as an incoming freshman. It was like, look, get on the bus. Like, I don't care what it is or how you do it. It was special teams were that link, and I love that. I do it at the high school level as special teams coordinator, but I use all the position coaches to, like you said, coach, hey, you're coaching the returners here. You got the second line, you got the third line. It just gets everybody involved where now your players see it as more of than just, all right, we're doing specials right now. And then for the room, I want to be able to say, hey, our guys are contributing in every facet this game, not just from the traditional tight end position, but you're on the front line of kick return, you're the wing on field goal. To me, as a group, it's just a really thing within the room itself to keep that camaraderie. And just because you're not the guy starting at tight end doesn't mean you can't be a huge piece of the puzzle.
No doubt about it. Well, Coach, it's been great having you on. Really enjoyed it. Enjoy the exciting time getting camp going, and best of luck to you. And we'll hopefully we'll see you down the road and see how Colgate keeps on improving, man, going to the next step. And undoubtedly it will. So it's great having you on, Coach, and enjoy camp and have a great week.
I appreciate it, guys. Thank you. Just gonna have a good first practice.
Coach,
that's all. We're gonna have a good
appreciate
first
you, buddy. That's it. Living in it. Get them moved in, right? You don't need 25 throw pillows now, but I'm not here. You need one pillow. I love it. Coach, thanks so much for taking the time, buddy. Good luck, and we'll talk to you soon.
Appreciate you guys having me. Thank you.
Bye.
Hey, buddy. Thanks, man.
All right, that was a good job, Colgate. I didn't realize that the Colby, I'm sorry, SUNY Cortland coach was the
Coach
coach.
Fitz.
Yep. That's it's a good thing.
And that's you think about it. Yeah, I mean, you're going from D3 to FCS. That's big. You know what I mean? That's a big talk about. Upstate New York to Colgate. I mean, it's just it's an awesome. Because look, he had Cortland rolling. I mean, you're talking national championship. Now to go moving for coach to sell your team within that staff, obviously he's doing something great. And I'm talking I saw every camp I was at in the spring, he was right, and he was getting after it. But he talked about the transparency thing, and we talk about with a lot of guys here. It was one of the a breath of fresh air with that Wild West of recruiting, where it was hey man, he's got that GP, and it wasn't a bad PA, right? It was just, hey, I can't work with that at Colgate. It was okay, and now move on. And that's such a breath of fresh air to see that guys are still that parent in terms of the recruiting process. I mean, look, we've been through it, we see it, we know how some guys are that just kind of they'll string guys along knowing hey, this isn't going to work anyway, but it's kind of how you work.
no doubt about it. I think it's Colgate's an interesting program because they've had a lot of highs and a lot of lows over the years. So
now you said you got recruited by them, right?
Oh yeah, I mean I had every. In the end, I basically had every one of those FCS programs.
Right.
Yeah, I mean there might have been one in a conference that didn't like me for whatever reason, but basically all of them I could have gone to.
It's a great spot.
Yeah,
it's Colgate, a really great place.
Colgate offered me. I mean, I'm pretty sure. Like, I just said I wasn't interested, because I already had. I was already at one point I had 0, which was crazy. And I realize now, by the way, the mistake I made, which I didn't even know back then. We didn't know
which was
really, Derek. Like, it's hard to explain how it was back then, but.
Look, it was that way. Remember, I was the tail end of it, so I still. Me neither.
You still went to college camps, though. You're that 10-year difference, like the 10 years from the early 80s to my time period was a big difference. Okay, because I remember the guy who was a star football player 10 years earlier, or maybe a little bit, maybe 11 or 12 years earlier, was this guy Joe Bianco, and Joe Bianco went to Temple. And he was a running because Saddleback always took the big fast guy, and he was the tailback. Like that was kind of thing. And then there was Jimmy Pastoric went to UMass in the 80s. He was the same thing. Scott Alia went to UMass. But from 81 to when I came out in 92, that was a different recruiting process. But they didn't really do anything. Really, coaches came to you completely. Okay,
correct.
That was still the case in the 90s. But here's my but. I got invites to all kinds of college camps. Okay. You know how many I went to? Guess how many I went to for like prospect days? 0. I went to 0.
Well, but also it wasn't it track season.
I didn't even know. I didn't know. I really didn't. I didn't know. That's the bottom line. Like I already had offers for track because track you just went off.
Right.
Like, you look at times. And I already
had this guy.
Yeah, so I already had like offers there, and most guys looked at me track like if he gave up football, dropped 20 pounds, this guy could be like the kid from Toms River North, like as an Amir Hurley, like. But I was just big, you know what I mean. So I ran really good, but I couldn't run. I could only get so low, you know what I mean, at the size I was. But But
did you have dropped 20 pounds like that to do it?
I didn't know to go to camp.
Could you have done that?
I would have. Well,
could you have?
I specifically remember this. So I got invited. Like back then, I had handwritten letters from every school in the country. I'm not kidding.
Every
school in the country. I was really when I went and looked at the athlon in the top 200. I was on the watch list. I wasn't the top 200 guy. You know what I'm saying? I was the next tier. So I didn't understand. So I got all these invites to camps. I didn't know anything. And
different time period.
I don't know what the hell I was doing, but I'm trying to think back. But maybe I was running track in the summer. I don't know. But
that's what I'm thinking, because that's really hard balance for those spring sports. Football is their one because they're competitors, so they don't want to miss a track meet. They don't want to miss a lacrosse game. You know what I'm saying? That's why it's just really hard. And
So I got invites.
Well, I remember my process. Like only
did you go to college camp?
Was Rutgers.
You only went to one. Okay, yeah.
But that's when they were
started to people were starting to say go to camp.
That's where it transitioned. But that's when it was a sleepaway camp. Like I went to Rutgers for Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You had 3 days there, and also it was like Rutgers, you know what I'm saying? Like that was the only. I didn't know anything else, right? And
so weird.
I didn't, and that was coming from a school that produced like that level type guys, right? So you it was kind of like a. Like,
well,
you knew what you knew.
Weird. Like they were telling me, come to the camp. Like I was getting handwritten letters, like Dave, hope to see you at the camp this summer. Hope to see you. So,
and you're like,
I asked my father. I said, "Can I go to the Tennessee camp, Penn State?" And I think it was Tennessee, Penn State, and I asked for maybe it was Maryland or Virginia. It was one of those, right? I asked for to go to those two because I had gone to schools in the spring, like for prospect days, a bunch of them, not a bunch, but like a handful.
To like tour, but like that wasn't football, right? Or like it was like you toured and did whatever, but you didn't like go out and catch balls or...
They had junior days. I went to junior days. So
right. I did as well, but Rutgers only.
I went to Syracuse. I went to Virginia. I went to a few of them. I didn't go to Rutgers. But it was funny because then the fall came around. I didn't have shit offer wise. I had nothing, and this was going on for a while until.
And you're like, what the fuck?
So Vanderbilt called up and said, "Where's Dave going? We haven't heard anything." And no one got me on the phone. I don't know why, but my father was like, "He
didn't work like that, dude."
He didn't have anything. And Penn State was like, "What's he doing? Like we're not there yet on him, but we figure he has some already, and like he doesn't have anything." So I had nothing until then. All of a sudden, UMass came in, and Jim Reed comes in. One of his sisters came.
Who was there at the time?
It was I can't remember his name, but
and they were FS or FBS at the time.
FCS. So he comes in and he goes, "Where's we just wanted to check, where's Dave going?" And he's like, my father was like, "What do you mean? Where's he going? He's going nowhere right now." That's our father talk too, by the way. Like, he's going nowhere right now. He doesn't have any offers. UMass just said, "Just bring him downstairs." Offer, boom. As soon as they offered, it was like, I don't know how these guys found out, but all the FCS schools, the Ivies, everybody, they just came in. And then Temple came in, and then Maryland came back, and then like they went back. Rutgers came back in. They offered me with a contingency. Rutgers offered my coach. They offered my coach in the weight room. They said, "We're offering him. I'm just going down to the head coach, and we'll call you back tonight to confirm." My coach comes in. He's like, "You're offered from Rutgers, blah, 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 blah. Just you got to wait till tonight till the head coach officially offers you." I'm like, okay. The day goes and gone. Nobody calls me. Okay. The next day, my head coach calls up. I come in. He's like, "So what's up?" And he's like, I'm like, "Nothing, dude. Nothing." He didn't say nothing to me. Nobody called me. And then he calls him. The guy's like, "Oh, the head coach wants to hold," So it was. So I had a bunch of FCS already at that point anyway. It didn't really matter. But
right,
it was my process. It's chronicled in a Record article when they did the signing day. They chronicled it. They Record. That was back when they did articles. They did a whole interview with me, and I talked about how it was and
the process.
Yeah, you can still find that article if you go to the backlogs. But yeah, it's a very so it's interesting, the information now. You fast forward, you're overloaded with camps. Like guys who aren't good go to camps. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I went to Tennessee camp, it would have been me and 100 kids. That's it. It would have been these 100 kids.
Now you go with 2,000.
Yeah. Now, they might not have offered me anyway. You know what I'm saying? They may not have offered me. But like, it would have been a competition with the kids that are also good, right? Now you got, like, kids who could barely play D3 at these Division I camps.
Yep, because, hey, I can pay 120 and go.
Yeah, well, and they offer because you need to have – see, what you went to, I love the overnight camp. That was the greatest.
Absolutely, dude.
Those were the greatest.
So good.
I went my freshman year.
to 1.
I mean,
Penn
dude, like I was on the 7-on-7 team for 2 days with Brian Cushing as when he was a sophomore. You know what I mean? Like, because he was at the fucking camp. Like, it was different, and it was an opportunity for coaches to like see how does this guy interact like in the cafeteria? How does he carry himself from the intangibles that coach just talked about that need to be a part of the process, that I think the way it's done now, guys miss out on it, right? Because you can go and you can ask the head coach, or you can ask this, like, what's he like? Look, that coach ultimately wants to help his player get to that level. So yes, honesty is a huge piece. Like, I always treat it this way for me personally, is like, look, if he asks the question, then I need to tell him the truth. If he doesn't ask that question, I'm not putting it out there, right? If you have that like free,
you see what college is like.
You know what I'm saying? 100%.
You see what college is like. You know what I'm saying?
How is this guy going to act when he doesn't have mom waking him up to go to class or go to practice or class? Is he going to, oh shit, I forgot my cleats in my room because mommy didn't carry my bag for me, or whatever it is. It's just, and again, you develop these relationships with guys or other coaches, like players. That was what was,
you don't know anybody.
That was just very, because you didn't have that, I can DM this guy, I can this, you didn't have that access. You didn't know, unless that guy was in your county or state.
That's what makes Manning camp so special, by the way.
So cool, because it's different. They're the only ones, for the most part,
overnight.
That what it
with is. All great coaches there, overnight, great players
you have
there.
Current players
there too. You have average players. You have great players.
Absolutely.
It's on a college campus.
You're but it's at Nichols. It's not at, you know what I'm saying? It's not at this.
You still get a taste of it. You still get a taste.
Love it. My favorite piece of the thing is that current college quarterbacks are the counselors. So, like high school guys, they'll ask different questions to that guy than they coach. You know what I'm saying? Like that's to me the coolest piece of the way they do that whole thing. And then they'll bring in John Gruden to speak, or who's ever like it's just very different than what the current model is, where it's, to me, some of them, and it's like, hey, it's a money grab.
That's why the camp sells out, dude. Like, people don't like. I listen. I know college.
You're probably full.
I know colleges are not going to do it because they need to see so many recruits all the time in order to get just the number they want, just to get their small number. That's part of the problem. But, dude, that's an experience that,
unlike anything else,
you'll remember. I remember mine. You remember yours. Like, I remember at night, like after dinner, and like a couple of the kids, from Jersey that were there, that not my town, but like other towns. They're like, hey, shoot, we're gonna go hang out in the quad and come down here after dinner. And you go down, and like you didn't know. And then there were some other girl sports that were going on. And I remember you're talking like you're learning to communicate. You know what I'm saying? Like, really, you really are, because the only people you've communicated before are your friends you've grown up with for the most part.
Right.
And
you know them, you know how to interact, you're comfortable, you're this. Like, this is putting you in an uncomfortable situation to have to now, which is what, this process is. You're going away to college. You're going with people you don't know. How do you interact and still perform at a high level with pressure, a little bit of pressure, right? Because everybody around you is trying to get to the same place, yet how do you handle those tangibles? That was what was great about, going away, right? And you weren't,
you're right.
They weren't your mom and dad. That was
Like,
so like, and that was
so much
how
fun.
how can you be a teammate, right? Because you're used to getting the ball to you all the time. Now you're the decoy, or are you a team guy? Are you a palms up guy? How do you? Yes, the quarterback, it might not be as good as a guy on the other teams. And what do you do when there's a missed
I knew
throw?
I
And
was
it's,
good for sure. That's how I came out of there, and I knew I was good because I was usually the best.
it took me to a level.
Like 1 or 2 in my
Right.
group every single time. I was always, and I
You
and
know how I
like,
hate it? Because the position coach from Rutgers knew my first name.
yeah, that's the deal, dude. That's there was something about.
Hey, Derek, you got to
This
stick your foot in the ground better here. And guys got pissed, right? Like, why do you know this guy's name? You know, like I remember that. Like, hey, we play you week 8 this year. Like, guess what I'm gonna do? Like, you're not gonna do this. You're not gonna do. Okay, bro.
You know, they told me
I loved
at
it.
Penn State camp because I was a safety mostly throughout high school. Although my freshman year I had to start on varsity because the varsity middle linebacker got hurt, so I played middle linebacker for like a bunch of games. But I was mostly a safety. And then
Because they were trying to save you. They were trying to hide you.
Well,
And
the
save
Penn
you
State guys were like I went obviously with the running backs, but then the Penn State coaches were like, dude, you got to go
over there.
You got to go linebacker. Like you're not going to get, you're not going to get recruited at safety. Right there, right? Like as a freshman, that was first
on the spot.
Yeah,
Yep.
you know, they're like, dude, you're 180 pounds already. Like, you know, so you know. Now they're probably thinking I was already 6 feet. They're probably thinking I was going to be like 6'4", which I was. That I only grew another inch or two, but but they're probably like, oh, this kid's going to be like 6'3", 6 feet. Better go for the linebacker. You know, nope. No, I got another inch or two. That was about it. But it was you learned. I don't know. I'm forever going to be
you learned a lot about
yourself.
Like that's where I solidified. Like, yep, I go to a small school. And I am what I am, but I can still go out. Look, these guys might be bigger, faster, stronger, but I'm right here, and that's where it was like. Right, like it was like I'm like
would hold you back, meaning they would be like, "Oh man, you ain't going, you ain't gonna do that."
Okay, they're like, "Oh yeah, you're gonna do real good there." All right, buddy. Like, I didn't need. It was like, look, that gap. It showed me that like I could close that gap by just being who I was and outworking and do. You know what I mean? Like that was like that's where it was like, hey. It was like, yo,
yeah,
I can like even being on that 7-on-7. It was like, look, I can still be a key aspect to winning at this level with being a piece to the puzzle, right? Like knowing my role and understanding that like this is what ultimately might not. It's going to separate me. It won't separate me, like you know what I mean, to take me where. But this is what I am, and I can still ball out. The rest of, and that gave you a level of respect from not only coaches and counsel or whatever, but like those other guys that you knew were, ultimately for me better than me. But hey, dude, you're a fucking good ass player, and I'll take you with me any time.
They weren't better than you. They might have been taller or something like that, but that doesn't mean they're better.
Right. Correct. It just showed me that I could get on that level and still be okay. Which was awesome.
Exactly. Right, like
right.
And
it was fun. I mean, it was so
5'7", right,
fun, dude.
I'm sure. Dude, you love Tyrann Matthews.
So much fun.
Tyrann Matthews.
I just had so much fun. Yeah, he's a stud. Remember him? And look at a bit of a rocky, and he had a bit of a rocky college career, like some off the field stuff and whatever. And then look, you have that many years as an All Pro, like. Figure it out, dude. You know what I mean? Like sometimes it takes guys a little bit longer, but I just thought it was always such a good experience, being away and kind of like, how do you get into that? And how do you find out a lot about yourself, right? And then you now you go back home and you're like, guys, you don't know shit and you don't know what you're talking about. And like, this is kind of like what it is, right?
You're
like
supremely confident.
Oh yeah, you are. And those guys, look, some of the guys, yeah, okay, whatever, bro. Like, all right, man, like, you know, it's cool. Like, you know, actually,
Plus, you got higher level coaching, right? You got higher level coaching. That was
detail, and it also showed me that shit. I was playing for some really, really good coaches because I was, you know what I mean, like heads and tails above other guys that were like, wait, what? I don't know, like what's cover three? Like, and it was like, oh, okay, like it's, you know what I'm saying? Like that was fun too, to kind of like, damn, even though you're at a really like small program or whatever, like the coaching you're getting is on par with, you know, what these guys are talking about. It was eye-opening too. It was like, holy shit, I didn't know there was this level of detail involved, right? And that's like one of those, you know, psychopaths when it comes to like the little small things within the game itself. Like, I loved it. I soaked it all in and loved it, right? And because those guys were taking it to a whole different level. But yeah, I'll never forget that experience. That was so cool to be able to do that on that level, surrounded by those guys. And then you look at, like, you know, like I said, like look at that 7-on-7 team, like played with Brian Cushing, like, and he was nothing back then, right? He was a sophomore. I wouldn't say he was little, but like, that dude's fucking different. Like, oh shit, like that dude's fucking different. And then to see where they go and all that kind of stuff, like, you know, it's cool. Yeah, I don't think guys get that anymore, dude. They really don't, because it's such a surface level process.
It's a different era. Like, they don't get that, you know, they don't get that to challenge themselves to figure out themselves. You know what I mean? Like, they don't get that aspect.
Because it's all just, it's just like,
and honestly, like I see it now. Like, you try to replicate, and you see it probably in high school. You try to replicate, you can't. Like, it's hard to replicate having the ability to be on your own at 14, 15 and have to make this.
Are you scared? 100%. You're like, I don't know how to fucking do it, but you know what? Sink or swim, dude. Figure it out, or you're gonna get left behind. And that's kind of like a big part of the maturation process. Like, you know, I felt like I grew up in those 3 days.
Yep, I think that's a big difference, and I felt like it helped me when I had to go to college. You know, like I learned.
Hell yeah!
I've already been there, and I knew how to make. I realized there
big boy decisions. You know what I mean?
Well, I also realized other kids were trying to make friends too, just like you were. So you think that you're the only one. You think in your head as a human being, you're the only outsider because you might see some kids talking to some people, but you don't realize they're all just trying to make friends too.
Everybody's trying to.
How you go about doing it? Yep. So, you know, teaching that, like, it's hard to teach. I mean, you could do it, but like, I don't know. It's just going away and staying over. There's something about it. Look, as a parent, I get it. I'd be nervous as shit for my kid. I'd be, like, I'm sure. Well, I don't know if my father was, because just knowing how my father is, he might not have been nervous, but he might have been just like,
he was like, dude, get him out of here. Get him
out of here, and I'll see him in 5 days.
Yeah.
I could go do my shit by myself for 5 days, not have to worry about him. But maybe
it's so funny.
Yeah. It is so funny. But nowadays you are just naturally like, you're like brainwashed into.
You're like aware. I don't really know how to even like.
I didn't know anything.
You're just like,
your era is the last, dude. Your era,
yeah,
just because I listened to Greg Olson, who's your era, right?
How great was that podcast? How great was that?
That was great. The first hour, I don't know what they were talking about, but then when they brought Greg on, it was great. And the whole episode.
That's like, always how they do that show, bro. That's how they do that show. The first hour is literally just talk like bullshit or whatever going on, maybe in the media or whatever it is, and then they get into the guest and the actual episode. I mean, you got a lot of content being at Tight End U, right? Because they got Kittle on, they had, you know, Greg Olson on, but like you literally have to fast forward through that first hour of like, dude, what are we talking about?
I don't even know what they're talking about, so I just fast forward. That's exactly what I did. We fast forward. But
we started talking about old school, like, you know, screwing cleats, like that was a huge thing that like really like resonated with me because I got to school early too, to change my cleats and do all that. You know, he talked about like, you know, I don't level because like we knew exactly where he was from, and literally to me he was the town next to me, right? Like I was a sophomore when he was a senior, so he was the first. Oh my God, this guy's big time. Where do I stack up in terms of that? And Wayne Hills was rolling at the time. You know, the program itself was really, really good.
Right.
Some of the things he talked about, it was really awesome, especially like the way that he's coaching the 7th and 8th grade team, where there is still that old school traditional like, hey, we'll find a role for everybody, but like this is what it is. And if you want to have that conversation, we're gonna have that conversation. Like some of that type of stuff. It was really like, it was good. And I think people need more of that, especially like even like for you are and the level that you're coaching, right? With Troy and all those kids. Like, I don't know if a lot of do it like that anymore, because whether it's they don't know any better or.
By the way, at 10U, they can do things now. It's interesting because last year, some kids could do things, other kids could not do things, right?
Right.
8U, 3 or 4 of them could really do things. Most of them, you know,
couldn't.
Yeah,
they tried.
Not that they wouldn't have. Now at 10, those kids, they can all do. They can all, if they want to do something, they could do something. So it's like it's I'm like, oh my God, I'm almost back to regular coaching. I'm almost back to it.
You're like, here it is. And look, like even the little things like kicking extra points, dude. Like even that little aspect of just having the ability to like, hey, I got a guy that might be able to do this, right? Because that's a lot to kind of put it all into it, which is it's awesome. I think it's so cool. And you get to see those kids mature, get older. Yep. Hey, this guy when he was 8 was this, but look at him now when he's 11. Like, whoa, right? Like that's development, which Coach just talked about. They do that. It's not, hey, let's get a guy at a free agency or the transfer portal and play and do this. Or the first question coming in is not how much you're going to pay. It's what degree can I get? What majors do we have? Right. That's what separates the Patriot League and that level from everything else that's going on. You know.
And I'll put all my coaches. I tell them, go look up Tony Holler. Look up the Football Track Consortium. That's what it's called, right? The Track Football Consortium or whatever it's called. And I said, you got.
He's in Jersey for today. That's it.
Oh, he's in Jersey today. What? Until when?
He's speaking at Mom and You. Like he's literally not here for 24 hours. Because I was like, let's go out, let's have a beer, like whatever. And he's like, Derek, I would love to, but I'm literally here for like less than 24 hours. I'm playing, speaking, and going right from there to hop back on a plane and go. I tried, Dave. Come on, buddy. Like, let's do it.
What time is he speaking at? What time is he speaking? He's probably
I think like 1. Yeah, like he's probably on the way to Newark or wherever to get out of here and boot scoot and get out and go. But listen, it's what I would love to attend one of those because I look at the list too and it's like, oh wow, everybody that goes there we've had on the show. I love it. I'm like, shit, this is great. Like everybody's been on. Everybody's so cool. Like they're just in that world. Listen, and like I said, back to Coach McCrann, like dude, like I told you, I saw him first time on the road this year at camps or when he came in school and visited and whatnot. Like it was nice to see that guys still have that. Right.
How about when Greg Olson, they talk, or Will Compton, one of them's talked about how they send their kid to Kula.
Yeah, Olson does.
Oh, Olson sends his kid to Kula. Yeah.
He sent his kid to Kula when they were in like Nashville or something.
Like finally,
my favorite part
to Nashville,
dude.
I'm sending my kid.
I know what a freaking thing. What I was. It was when he was like, he was talking about how, sitting there on the bus and he's coaching up the kids on the way. And Luke Kuechly, an assistant coach, by the way, which is unbelievable because his staff is unbelievable. Hey, we got a problem. Like, we're back at school. Like, we got lost and the bus driver just drove us back here. Listen, and I'm thinking like, wow, remember when we were on the bus going down to and you're on the first bus, I'm on the second bus, and we get in an accident, and it's like, what the fuck? We got the ball bag. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just that shit within high school. And then what comes of it? We have a walk-off kick.
Yes.
Like, what? Like, shit that, dude. Like shit that happens in youth and middle school, like in high school football. That like
middle school. Oh God.
And the fact that those guys talked about that, like, look, we've played at the highest of high levels, and our favorite time was high school football. Like,
it's hilarious,
dude. So, because everybody can get to experience, everybody can play, right? Like, it's a sport that ends. Like, most people don't go past high school. So those are the only memories you have. To me, like, I take pride in that, giving like guys the best experience they can ever have, because majority, especially where I'm at now, like, they're not going to play college football. So this is the football experience they will ever have. They're going to talk about summer workouts and why did that coach like bust my balls? Do you know what I mean? Like, why am I running all this shit for whatever? All I want, like, my varsity jack, like, that's just an experience that you have that it's unlike anything else. That's what makes football so different and so cool, right? And he talked about, Greg also talked about it. I bring my kids for travel basketball tournaments or travel baseball tournaments. It's not football. Football is just still there. It's your buddies, it's your crew, and we're rocking. Like, yeah,
absolutely.
And that's what it is. And you'll talk about it forever. So it's awesome. If you haven't listened to it, people, go listen to it. It's a great listen. I had my old man listening to it. He's like, dude, he was a monster. I'm like, yeah, no shit, Dad. Like, you know, yeah.
Obviously,
I said his old man was crazy. I said, and his old man was a crazy coach, like talking about punching him in the face mask and shit. I'm like, yeah, I remember those days.
You know what? Like, he was also talking about, like, he thinks his kids are pretty good, but he's not sure if they're going to be, like, you know,
anything special.
He has great genetics, obviously.
Right. Like, look, his older brother, an amazing quarterback.
It doesn't mean that he's going to be
his older. I mean, of the three brothers in that family, two of them were quarterbacks. He was the tight end, right? And then his oldest brother, like him, which a lot of people originally committed to Notre Dame, and we're at Notre Dame for a couple months, and we're like, I don't like this. The oldest brother went to Virginia, played quarterback. He went to Miami, played tight end, and made whatever. And then the young brother was a quarterback who was all over the place. Like, he was at Miami for a little bit. He was at Louisville for, you know, I mean, like, he stops along that. That, like, you know, I don't think a lot of people knew that, you know?
Right. There's no doubt about it.
And his old man will forever be in the history of, like, great coaches within New Jersey itself, even though he moved, you know, stopped coaching and moved down where they were. But now he's coaching middle school football, dude, with Luke Kuechly and James Stewart and all these former pros. And you know, you got Greg Olson out there, like, yes. And he talked about people want to beat us because and he makes his kids aware of that. And that's, to me, a healthy transparency type thing where, dude, there's going to be guys that are going to treat you different because of who your dad is, you know?
Absolutely.
It'd be a really hard thing for a kid. Like, why is this kid picking on me? Or why is this kid busting my balls about something I don't, because I have this last name? It's like, yeah, man, that carries a little bit more. So the awareness I thought was really cool. It's so funny. Like,
no doubt.
Talking about, like, playing, like, Thunderstruck in the locker room. Like, yeah, I think every locker room has played Thunderstruck. Like, kind of the music that was on.
100% correct. No doubt. All right, bro. Great
Tomorrow, Joe Adam, head coach of St. Andrews.
Yep. That'll be great. We'll see you guys tomorrow.
So, yeah, he's awesome.
We'll see you all tomorrow. All right. Let's go.